Right, so there you just heard the whole solo. Before we get into the actual solo, let's have a look at a couple of the different techniques involved within that solo and country guitar in general. First of all, let's talk about chicken picking. Let me give you an example of a chicken picked lick. Okay, so that's a typical country style lick making use of chicken picking. Let me show you those individual notes. Starting on the 9th fret in the G, I'm going to pick 9, 10, 11 on the G string. But I'm not going to use fingers 1, 2, and 3 like I just did. I'm going to go 1, 2, and then I'm going to move the second finger up to 11. And then with my middle finger, I'm going to pick the 10th fret with my first finger of the left hand. Like that. So it's quite a fast triplet happening for these first 3 notes, but slowly it'll be. Then I do exactly the same thing 2 frets lower, starting on the 7th fret. Okay, so those 8 notes together. One more time slowly. Okay, so let me play that up to speed. Then I carry on 5, 6, 7 on the G with 7 on the E. And the same thing 2 frets lower, 3, 4, 5 on the G, and then 5 on the G. So those 8 notes would sound like this slowly. And then up to speed. Okay, so let's put everything we've looked at together so far. And then I ended with the 4th fret in the G, and then the 3rd fret on the E string. So slowly that lick would be. Okay, now there's a slight variation on that if you play it up to speed to emulate that chicken picking type of sound. So let me play it to you up to speed, the whole lick, and then I'll discuss the technique in more detail. Here we go. Okay, so as you can hear on my G string, I don't let the notes ring out for their full value. I kind of keep them muted slightly, so they sound more like this. Instead of, because I want the contrast of this slightly muffled sound with a bright sound on the E string. Okay, so one way of achieving that is just making sure that you're playing the notes in the G string with a very staccato type of phrasing. Then you can hear the top note really jumps out. Okay, so that's basically what's known as chicken picking. Now I can also play scales with that where I don't have the interval jumps. And then let's say I'm going to play the C country scale in the open position using sort of a chicken picking approach. And then it'll sound like this. Okay, so that's quite a different sound as opposed to alternate picking. Let me play that lick for you using alternate picking. One more time, alternate picking. Then using the hybrid picking, but with more of a chicken picking approach. And you'll see the same thing where I cut the notes shorter. I don't let them ring for their full value. Okay, so if you want to get used to this new style of picking, then I would suggest practicing these 2 things I've just shown you. First of all would be this lick. And secondly, it'll be this one. So you can practice those 2 things just to get the hang of the technique, and I've used that style for most of the solo. If it's a bit too awkward for you at first and you really like to learn the solo, then you can do that with just alternate picking, of course, as well. But to get that kind of convincing country sound, then I would really suggest to try and get this chicken picking thing under your fingers. And then one more thing before we move on to the actual solo is I've got a little bit of a slapback delay on my sound, which is very common in country as well, just to help me sound even a little bit more authentic as well. So for a slapback delay, you can try, if you got a delay unit that you can set in milliseconds, anything from about 80 to 150 milliseconds kind of tends to give you a nice slapback sound. If you've got one of the tap delays, then you want to try and get your, you tap it fairly fast to try and get this type of sound. Okay, so there you have two things to try and get a little bit more of an authentic country sound, the chicken picking style, as well as a bit of a slapback delay. And let's jump into the solo and look at lick number 1, and then I'll cover some other country style techniques as well.